Hello and welcome to Northwest Knitting. My name is Kathy and I live in Eugene, Oregon, where I'm practicing my knitting and working on making sustainable clothes out of natural fibers. I really appreciate you watching, and if you like this, I hope you'll press the like button or subscribe to make sure you don't miss another episode. And I'll have in my show notes down below references to everything I talk about today. And if I've missed something, or if you can't access Ravelry, which I make quite a few references to, be sure and just send me a comment and I'll get back to you with the information so you can find it. I'm on Ravelry as Northwest Knitting and on Instagram as Northwest Knitting. So you can find me in those two places as well. Anyway, well, we're into April. We've had some time last week where it snowed and it rained, and the snow didn't last very long, but then we had sun, and right now it's very sunny, but we've had some very cold weather. Anybody who put out any plants has brought them back in or put them against the house so they don't freeze. We hopefully bought some dahlia bulbs, but it's just way too wet right now to plant anything. I had an opportunity to go to my very first large fiber knitting convention, and so this weekend I went to Vogue Knitting Live. It was in Bellevue near Seattle, and I went to a class on brioche knitting, a 3-hour class, and I went to the marketplace. I didn't stay. Other people I could see were coming with their knitting buddies, which would have been very fun. It really would have made it more fun, I think, and taking many classes. So people do go and spend quite a bit of their time and money to take the classes. I really regretted that I didn't sign up for more classes, because while I was taking my beginning brioche class, right next door, Gudrun Johnson was having a class on haps. And that made me, definitely felt like I was missing out there. I did see her though in an interview on Woolly Thistle talking about haps, so maybe I got a lot of it from that. I don't know. It was very, very fun talking to people who are crazy about knitting and don't think you're crazy for being interested in knitting. Some wonderful people. I was surprised though. Normally those marketplaces are wonderful, and this one was very beautiful. There were so many gorgeous hand-dyed yarns there, and certainly there was a lot there. Maybe slightly less because I went on the Friday. I thought that there maybe were more people coming, and maybe it was limited because of COVID, who knows. But one thing that surprised me was there really was not a lot of non-superwash yarn. So, of course, I did find some things. I found some absolutely gorgeous mohair. And you notice that there's a theme, definitely. It's really beautiful. It's by Yuriko Oki, and she lives, she has a place, her shop is on Granville Island in Vancouver, BC. And if you've never been to Vancouver, it's definitely a very fun little shopping area that has a lot of crafters there. Always fun. There's food. And the last time I did it, we took this little tiny boat over from the other side of Vancouver, from downtown over to Granville Island. So it's a fun activity. But I just was in a big convention center in Bellevue. The other thing I found is I found a yarn company that I am pretty sure now that I discovered back in maybe like 2018 and at Black Sheep Gathering. Now, Black Sheep Gathering is my more local fiber festival to me, and it's a much more casual affair in that it's in a fairgrounds, and you can go out and look at the sheep and the alpaca, and I think there's judging of the animals and so forth. And the vendors are all much small, I think tend to be smaller. But anyway, years ago, probably 2018, I got some yarn at Black Sheep Gathering, and I'm almost positive it was from Fidalgo Yarns. So, but I had forgotten that because back then I didn't pay very much attention to what I was buying. And it was a yarn that had these gradations to it. You can see. And when you bought the yarn, you got the pattern. And so it's this cowl type thing. And so anyway, all this time people have asked me the name of this pattern and I haven't known, but because I figured, oh, it must be from Fidalgo. I went on Fidalgo's website and I looked at their yarns because I had some questions about some of the yarn they were selling, and I found this cowl finally. So I think it's the Strom cowl, and I can now have it on my Ravelry page as soon as I take a picture of it. So that was very fun, and I ended up I didn't buy much yarn, just that mohair. And then I also got this very interesting yarn from Fidalgo. Isn't that just gorgeous? It is not a sturdy yarn. But it is not superwash, so that is great. It's marine silk fingering. 51% silk, 29% wool, and 20% sea cell. So I asked them, what the heck is sea cell? And they said it was made from kelp. And at this point, I can't tell you a thing about kelp, but I will learn about it because when I knit with this. So it's very, very limp, as you can see. It is doesn't have a lot of structure. So it may be better as a shawl, but when I bought it, I have to admit, I was thinking of making a short-sleeved, very drapey summer top with maybe with some feather and fan or razor shell or something. Caitlin Hunter at Boyland Knitworks has a couple of those tops, and I think one of them that I looked at was Glacier, so it has several. She does stripes, but I was imagining it just all one color. So anyway, that was my purchase. Just one more glimpse there of that gorgeous, anyway, they had beautiful colors. I was going crazy because they had a lot of wonderful blues, but I was trying to branch out and be reasonable. So, okay, let me tell you about what I'm wearing. I'm finally possibly finished with my striped sweater by Andrea Mowry. And after today, I'm going to take a break, and I'm not going to be talking about the striped sweater for a while, but I want to show you where I am. I could wear it. It would be fine just the way it is. I might make some changes at some point. But anyway, let me tell you about it. So as you can see, like my other one that I showed in the episode 4, it's the simple circular yoke that Andrea Mowry designed. You pick up you have several choices with the collar. With my summer one, I just started knitting at the collar and went down, but this one I started knitting right here, and I picked up the collar later so I could decide how big I wanted it. I didn't want it too low in the back. I'm pretty happy with that. I could have made it higher, but I probably won't for reasons I'll go into in a minute. But anyway, I like that whole idea of picking up the collar later. And that was great. And I definitely want to do it again. I might even do it to add a turtleneck or a mock turtleneck on something. But I did find that I couldn't wait till the end to put the collar on because I couldn't tell from how the sweater was hanging how long to make it and so forth. I had to put the collar on to make sure that I could tell how long the arm should be and the length and everything. So anyway, I really like it. This blue right here is Rauma Finull garn. I think it's 4127, kind of a petrol blue. These two grays are Ulcentrum. This is the medium gray. This is the darker gray. They're from they're Swedish wool from Gotland. Rauma is Norwegian. So anyway, when I was working on it, I have to tell you that the color I really liked. I think everything's looking a little light today, but this charcoal really grabbed me. I always wanted to be working on the charcoal and originally planned to just do two colors, but somehow I thought the blue would really add it. I'm very happy with this. I'm happy. As you can see, I have almost no ease. There's no ease here, okay? But then, as usual, I start adding my stitches and I start increasing. And if I were to do it again, I would start increasing more dramatically earlier. Because if I measure from right at my underarm to right where my hip starts going out more, it's about 8 inches. So I only have 8 inches to get those increases in before if I want to have enough ease. So what I did this time is Melissa at Knitting the Stash had the idea of you could do the increases instead. I always do them on the sides. I always do 2 on each. I put markers on the sides and I make one left on one side and I make one right on the other side. So that's 4 stitches each time. She was suggesting that you don't have to do it on the side. It might work better to do it down the front depending on your body. And there might be something to that, especially if you have a little tummy. You could increase it right around the tummy. And yes, I do. But anyway, I think though that in my mind I was imagining I was adding more stitches. It still comes out to 4. 1 here, 1 here. I did 5 different intervals and also down the back at 5 intervals. So and so here we have not much ease, which I really like, but I like having more ease here. So you can see it's looser. So it's ease, 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 ease till you get to here. And then it's tighter again. So, and then I might like it longer, but definitely this is a wearable, useful garment. It goes with a ton of things I own. And I think for right now, it has to wait because I'm just not into changing it right now, but I could see that I might. Another interesting thing, I was listening to Megda on Skeins of Dreams. I'll put a link to her podcast. I've really enjoyed her. And one of the things she was talking about is she also is smaller up in the shoulders. And so she had recently come to the conclusion that she would do a smaller size up here for the shoulders And then like me, she's having to add on more stitches. And she was talking about adding them on under the arm. And so I definitely have more to learn about that. I'd like to figure out how, you know, how that affects the fit. So much to be learned there in the future. But for right now, I'm really happy with that. At least I didn't make an oversized sweater again. So for right now, this is going to be okay. But I also need to talk to you about the yarn. So I love how the yarn looks. And I love that it makes a really nice, stretchy fabric. You really feel that this was on a living creature. It is nice. If I bury it in the ground when it's all worn out someday, which I'll probably never wear it out, but if I do, I could bury it in the ground and it'll decompose. So I actually saw a film about His Royal Highness Prince Charles, who is the patron of wool in England. And there's a little video, and if I can find that, I'll put it down there. And in that, he buries a sweater that's made of wool and a sweater that's made of polyester or something. I'm not quite clear what he was. I'll listen to that again, but he's burying two things, and then it's dug up 4 months later, and the sweater is started, the wool is decomposing already. So that's a very interesting thing. So anyway, I'm a big fan, as you know, of the rustic wools. However, when I put this sweater on after making it, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? And maybe I need to reconsider all of this rustic wool business, because it was so darn prickly. So I put it aside for a couple days and I thought, boy, I'm going to have to think about this. However, yesterday I put it on with I have a little very light shirt underneath. It's very short sleeved, and it's totally fine. For some reason, arms, but anyway, when I tried it on without, it really did feel prickly to me. Uncomfortable is what I would say. I did wash it in a warm, not cold water with Eucalyptus, and I let it sit. I have been hearing, though, that people are talking about washing their wools in hot water, and after this episode, I'm going to put it in the wash again and try the hot water. So what they're saying is it's not the hot water that causes the wool to felt, it is the agitation, and so washing with really hot water for a rustic yarn will help it bloom more and soften it. So I'm going to give it a try. So I have a couple thoughts about this. One is that I thought I had a pretty high tolerance for rustic wool because I really love my my Let Lopey sweater. So I have this, again, a theme. I didn't plan it exactly, but it does go. So I have my Let Lopey sweater. It's the Sólbein cardigan by Mary Jane Mucklestone. Gosh, you'd think I'd never gotten dressed before. Okay. So you can see it's a, if you haven't knit with Let Lopey, it seems like it's so many people have, but if by any chance you haven't, it is a rustic Icelandic wool, and it, they call it, sometimes you'll see it listed as worsted. Personally, it's so it's got so much structure to it and everything. Gosh, I am undressed here. Okay, there we go. So it's a really great pattern. It was knit on big needles. She knit. She had several patterns. The stopover, this one, the day tripper, and several others. She did some with modern daily knitting. But anyway, I did this one let's see, I'm thinking maybe at least 3 years ago. And it was the first and only time I steeked. So this is my most precious sweater. I really wear it a lot in the winter. And anyway, I have loved this, but I think I have a couple thoughts. One is, I think the reason that I can tolerate the rustic wool in the Let Lopey sweater is because it's a cardigan. I'm always wearing something underneath it. Look at those gorgeous floats. I love what Let Lopey does when you wash it, and it's just, I really think it's great. I have found, though, I did a Let Lopey Felix pullover, which is a great pattern, and for that Let Lopey a sweater, I used a burgundy color, and I do find that one to be a stiffer yarn for some reason. It should be the same as the gray, I would think, and so maybe I'll wash that in hot water as well and see what happens. But and that one I always wear over a shirt also, because it has those real nice lace design here on the shoulders, and if you wear a light colored top under the burgundy, then it really pops out. So anyway, those are my thoughts about rustic wool. I think either that it needs to be, I'm going to use it more as cardigan if it's going to be the real rustic yarns, or with less ease so that I can put something underneath. This one, I made the sleeves a little bit tight, form-fitting. I really like that, and I love how I made the sleeves longer than I sometimes do, and I love that. So this sweater would not feel super comfortable, I think, with like a turtleneck underneath it, unless I had a very thin version. So anyway, that's it. Cardigan, less ease. I mean, more ease for the very rustic. Now, okay, let me pause for a minute. I just go talking and talking. Oh, I wanted to mention, I wear most every day, I wear my my earrings from my my son's mother-in-law. There's a name in Spanish for that relationship with your children's in-laws, but in English we don't seem to have that. Anyway, she does wonderful jewelry work, and I'll put a link to hers. I can't remember if she goes by her, I think it's Barb Irish Anderson, but anyway, I just love those. See aren't those great? Oh, and they have that little blue inside there, so little blue stone. So on the topic of yarns that are lightly processed, I've been thinking, I have a couple thoughts of future, I probably should talk about whips, but I want to talk about this because I'm talking about the yarns. I want to talk about a plan I have to make a sweater out of the 2020 Shetland Wool Week. And one reason I got it is I wanted to make this cowl by Ella Gordon. Isn't that great? I haven't done it yet, but I really would like to make that. But there's also a sweater in here that has been on my mind. And it is made out of Shetland wool. Big surprise because it's Shetland Wool Week. So there's that. I can never tell if I'm... And here's the... Whoop! Here's the back of it. There we go. Am I? Oh, not bad. Maybe just... No, don't fool around with it, Kathy. Okay, so this is made out of Shetland wool. It calls for Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. And I'm not using either one of those, but I have a thought. I am going to use some Shetland wool for the color, but I'm going to use Loft. You know, it's just wonderful if you actually have a name. Oh, they do. Okay, this Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and it's called Old World. And it's a very, very dark blue with some tweedy bits in there. So that's American Targhee wool, not Shetland. It is, to me, much, I wouldn't say softer, less, maybe soft isn't the word we're looking for here. It's more, I would say, not prickly in any way. This does not seem prickly. My swatch doesn't feel that way. So anyway, the colors that I was thinking of were different from what the pattern. I am probably going to do the Old World dark blue color for the button band and not a bright different color. But here are some of the colors that I'm thinking of. So, you see those? Don't they look like Easter egg colors? I just love it. Have I shown you these before? I bet I have. I'm so happy with them. No, maybe not. No, it looks like I didn't. I'm perfectly capable of telling you exactly what I told you last time and then getting into it and going, I'm telling them the same thing. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that one. But the reason I mention it now is that this is Shetland wool. It's called Elemental Effects is the name of the company, and it's their Shetland fingering. And my local yarn store had it. They're not selling it anymore, but they had small amounts, and they come in very small, like maybe 120 yards or something like that. And I would see these colors and I'd go buy. Every time I went in there, it seemed like I would grab a couple more. But they're really, really nice colors. And I don't know where, I guess I could possibly get it online. Everything looks pretty light today for some reason. These aren't that. This actually has quite a bit of gray in it. in real life. So I don't know what's going on. So I'll stop with that. But anyway, it's so much, it is not prickly. It is so much softer than what I used for my striped sweater. This is just a more rustic is how it is. And it's really great. This is the Rauma. I think the Rauma is less prickly, which is why I put it at the neck. Way less. But this gray is significantly prickly. So anyway, things to think about for the future. Okay, let's see. I have another work in progress I want to tell you about. I'm sure I've mentioned it in a previous podcast. This is I'm making a shawl with I had two skeins that I was able to get at Ewethful Fiber Farm and Wool that I've told you about. That's the small mill that's up in Halsey, which is very close to me. And this is her Silverton base. It's Romney wool, alpaca, and mohair. DK weight, dyed in the blue wool. But this is something she made special for her fiber club, and she had some left over, and so on one of her open shop days, I was able to get 2 skeins of it. I just feel like it's so special. And I started making a shawl out of a pattern that it might be, I think it was Orlaine Souché's textured shawl recipe. That's a free pattern on Ravelry. And then somehow it just didn't feel like I was doing justice to this particular yarn, which is just so unusual. So I ended up redoing it to make a textured pattern that's just a slip stitch. And then at the end, when I was getting bored with the slip stitch, I added a feather and fan pattern to it. So I hope you can see that. I think it'll block just very differently. And what I used for my feather and fan part of it was, I have a book called Folkshawls by Cheryl Oberle, and it's a really neat pattern of 25 shawls that she adapted from around the world. And this is from her feather and fan triangle shawl. So she has a chart, and I used the chart to make the feather and fan. But this is her wearing the feather and fan. She's got some really, really nice, here's one she calls Bird's Nest Shawl, made out of cashmere. And one that I really like is her, she calls it her Wool Peddler. Am I going to find that? Oh, she has a nice red one. This is a real old book. I bet you could find it used or at your library. That's what I've been doing lately is if I can, I often will, if I go to a used bookstore, I often see if I can find their craft section and get a hold of some older books, which is where most of those came from. Half of them. And then the library is also useful, and I've got, I haven't done it as much since COVID, but I recently have been going back to the library to add knitting books to my book supply. So anyway, I'm close to the end to this one, and I'm hoping, and it matches. I'm hoping, I'd really like to put like a knitted edge to it that's kind of nice, or maybe I'll do a picot bind off, but I actually also thought about doing a contrasting color that isn't too wild. And anyway, so I'm just, this is all I have left, so I'm gonna run out soon, and it's gonna have to be finished soon. So anyway, that's a very, very fun project. The other thing that I've been doing is in my last episode, I was talking about working on a little sweater for my granddaughter. And unfortunately, my printer ink has run out, so I can't show you the picture, but it's the Alouette sweater by Lisa Chemery of Frogginette Knits. And so I started doing it in this purple, because every gal needs some purple in her wardrobe. And it's Berroco Ultra Wool. It is superwash. It's definitely the wooliest superwash I've found. It's for a little baby, so I just can't, you can tumble dry this, wash in the machine, tumble dry low. And I found some laundry bags on Amazon, which I try not to buy. I try and buy locally whenever possible, but I went on Amazon and found a couple different wash bags that I wanted to get some smaller ones to put. So when I give baby clothes to a family, then I give it with the wash bag to encourage that use of the bag to protect it. It's hand knit, even though you can throw it in the washing machine. The only thing that I'm unsure of, I love the pattern. It's really fun. It has a cute little eyelet section, but I'm concerned that it's not showing up with the yarn, and that it would show up better if I used a lighter yarn, which I don't actually have presently, because I don't think you can see that texture very well. It's almost like a eyelet. I don't think I can see it. And I'm looking for it. So anyway, I'm trying to decide, should I go ahead, even though it may not be the best yarn? It does look better to me. It does look better to me today than it did last night in the light. I don't know. If you have any thoughts, comment below, because, and it's just so fun. You know how when I spend a lot of time kind of agonizing over what pattern I'm making, what yarn I'm using, what size needles I'm using, what size I'm making. Honestly, I am the ditherer of all times. And other people I know probably have their sweater finished while I'm still pondering what to do. But once I get started, you know, that moment when you're just starting out and you're getting it going, and then you're not so sure, and then you get going and you feel like, here I go, I'm ready to go. There's a little chart with this, but I'm zooming along. It makes a very nice fabric. It's fun to work with. I forget what size needles I'm using, but it's pretty sturdy. I'm making it with heavier yarn than recommended. but I think I did the math, and so I'm making a smaller size because with the it's more of a worsted weight wool, and I think that should work out fine. So if I do it, it should not take too long to make this little sweater. So we'll see. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I want to tell you. I often think of things right after I finish, and I keep thinking I just have to work on editing. I made a mistake back in episode 3, I think, the one I did about Peace Fleece. Was, yeah, it was episode 3. I made a mistake about the content of the kind of the breed of sheep used for the Peace Fleece yarn, which I said was churro, and it's rambouillet. And I just have to figure out how to do the editing so I can fix that. It's got to be within my power. I don't know. Anyway, so let's see, what else can I say? Oh, I know. I'm thinking of I'm thinking that if this is sturdy enough to make a top out of, then I'm going to do a swatch soon. And if I feel like it can hold up to be a garment, then my only hesitation being they say that it's delicate on the Ravelry page. So anyway, if it can be a garment, then I will try and cast that on pretty soon. The other thing I did is I went to my local yarn store and I got some Queensland United yarn, which is a blend of lamb's wool and cotton, and it's organic. And I made my my summer stripe sweater that I talked about in the last episode, episode 4. I made out of Queensland United, and I told you I was really happy with that yarn for a summer garment. It feels quite cool and wonderful. I have to tell you that at the time I bought it, just maybe because I didn't put my glasses on, I didn't realize it doesn't say superwash, but it says soft machine washable blend. So it sure doesn't feel, it feels so much like cotton, as I've told you before. But anyway, I got this color, more blue. I thought it would make, it's called Sapphire. That's crazy. That's not Sapphire. But anyway, it's a nice color, and I think it would be a really nice summer top. So I've been looking at these. In addition to the Caitlin Hunter patterns with the feather and fan, I also looked at her pattern called Kivat that Selma on Big Little Knits she just made that, and I hadn't really looked closely at that pattern before, and it's really interesting. It has lace, it has a little bit of color work. It's one of those Caitlin Hunter short sleeve cropped sweaters, but that's never stopped me from putting a whole bunch of more inches on it. So anyway, I have about 1,000 yards of this that I could make a summer top out of. So that is one thing. And the other thing I've been thinking about is, since this has wool in it and it works really well for me in the summer, are there other wool combos that I should be looking at? So I have looked at, linen and wool, linen and cotton, and so forth. I don't have them in my stash right now. I've seen other people who have knit short sleeves, summery tops out of wool, or combinations that one might think wouldn't work. So anyway, I'm thinking of that. I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on this topic. I get ads all the time from Woolex and other merino wool clothing manufacturers who are talking about using wool as a summer top and how great it would be for traveling and so forth. So I keep thinking that there might be something that I should think about. I have one of my last superwash yarns in my stash is Malabrigo's sock. And I've thought about, it's very lightweight. And I thought, if I made something really with a lot of ease, would that work? So anyway, I'll show you that one, because that would go with so many things that I have. If I can find it. Oh, yeah. So, I don't know. It's fingering 100% merino superwash. I'm worried that it would pill a lot. So anyway, that's just something I'm pondering right now. Is I'd love to have a couple summer tops to add to my clothing, because even though I have a lot of clothes, for some reason summer clothing is trickier and wears out faster for me. So I do need some new things. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just going to say, I'm going to tell you about two books that I read. Well, maybe I'll just tell you about one, because now I have forgotten, I've forgotten the authors of both of them. All right, I'll tell you, even though I've forgotten the names. One I just finished, we got from the library, and helpful tip, if you sign up for a book at our library and you ask for large print, it will come to you faster, even if it's a wildly popular book, than the ones in the regular print. So we got that way faster than we expected, and it's The Lincoln Highway. And it's written by the same author as the man who wrote A Gentleman in Moscow. And I cannot believe I can't think of his name, but I will put it in the show notes below. And if you Google either of those titles, The Lincoln Highway or A Gentleman in Moscow, they will pop up instantly. They're crazy popular. I loved A Gentleman in Moscow, and I love both of them. In each of the books, there is a character, a main character, who is almost saintly. And that could be really annoying, but there's so many complications in these plots that, and not saintly, but somebody who really knows what's right in the world, what is the right thing to do, and tries to do it. And what a joy it is to watch somebody trying to do right and having, anyway, I won't tell you the endings, but they're very satisfying books. And at least for me, they weren't troubling in the sense that every time I think of them, I'll I'll have some horrible feelings. So I really enjoyed both of them. And then I just finished a book that I didn't know about that my daughter loaned me called 5 Wounds. Now, 5 wounds, I believe, refers to the stigmata, which is Christ had 5 wounds, I think, both feet, his hands, and he was lanced in the chest, I think is the history. And there are people saints who have been reported to have the 5 wounds, and that's the stigmata. So anyway, I hesitated. That's my my family background and how I was raised in the Catholic Church, so I'm very familiar with that story, and I wasn't sure I really wanted at this particular point to go down that road of reading about this character who, at least initially, he is thinking that if he lives in the Southwest, I think he's a penitente, or they have another name for it in the book. And there are these men who carry the cross this time of the year, and he was imagining himself he felt it was a great honor to be in the position of Christ, and he's thinking that if he does this, that he will become a better person, and he has really messed up a lot of his life. So it starts out like that, and I'm thinking, but anyway, I read enough to be very engaged, and it turns out the book is not about that, really. It's really about a family. There's a grandmother who's the rock of the family and and she works full time, and she keeps everybody together as much as she can. There is her son, who's an adult man who has just done every single thing wrong in his life you can imagine. And then he has a daughter who has gotten pregnant I think she's about 16, and she's gotten pregnant. And in her pregnancy, she's determined to do better and to do well for her unborn son, who's born in the course of the book. So I won't say anything more about it, but I couldn't put it down. It was really about people who are trying to have healthy relations with their family when historically they have not. So surely everybody can relate to that on some level, even if we haven't gone down. Things aren't as gloomy for us as for some of the characters in the book. Everybody has something they can relate to on that score. So anyway, those were really good reads, and now I am back on reading the last 2 books of the Shetland series by Anne Cleaves. And I think she wrote maybe 8 books about a detective on the Shetland Islands. And I've really enjoyed the books. I've been disappointed that there hasn't been just a little bit more of a reference to knitting and wool. There's really not. They're really detective stories, but I like the character a great deal. All the main characters are very enjoyable to read, and the whole Shetland Island, you do learn about the Shetland Islands culturally in a lot of ways. And we watched a couple of episodes of the TV show, but we felt that it was such a change from the books that it was kind of hard to watch it. So you might if you're not going to read it, then you could enjoy those, I think, better. But if you're really attached to how these people are in the books, they changed the plots. They've changed so much that I think they're well done, but they kind of ruin the story for us. So maybe after we've totally finished the books, then we'll be able to go and watch the TV show. Anyway, I think that's it. I really appreciate you watching. If you have any thoughts about anything I've talked about today, I'd love it if you commented below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. If you have any suggestions for summer tops or summer yarns, I'd love to hear that as well. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you pretty soon. Happy knitting. Bye.